Welcome all of you to the day 2 of this online course on journal selection. This video again is for those if in case electricity runs out, then this pre-recorded video will be given to all the participants, and if the things go fine, then this will be taken live through Zoom app. Otherwise this is for all of you. And the last part that we have, where there is a practical session to check the journals, that will be taken as a separate Zoom meeting for all of you, which will be a bonus session for all of you. So these are things will happen if there is a power cut, and if it's not, then things will go as planned. So let's start. So as a part of the day 2, we are going to talk about the more things that are related with the selection of a journal. So first of all, I'll be sharing with you some tips to select a journal. Then we'll talk about little depth. We'll talk about the difference between SCI and Scopus. Then we'll talk about SCI, SCIE, ESCI journals. Then we'll talk about peer review and its types, and finally we have a practical session. So this will be done. This last part will not be a part of this video. This will be given to all of you as a part of a separate Zoom session. So let's start. So the first tip that I have for all of you to select a journal is to see or check the scope, that whether your article matches the scope of the journal, either its aim, scope or theme, whatever you call it, it should match. Because even if your article is very good, the journal you are submitting has a good enough impact factor, but if your theme or your scope is not going to match with that of a journal, it is anyhow going to get rejected. You cannot do anything. The second thing is to check the credentials of the journal and the publisher. As we talked as a part of the day 1, that you can go ahead and check about the editor-in-chief, where he works. Does he actually work there or not? You can cross-check the website from the indexing page. That when because in the case of both SCI and Web of Science, they have the link to the homepage of the journal on the indexing website. So if the address it's going to match, then you can be sure that it is going to. Then go through the content of the journal. Like as I said, that when you are going to write an article, select a journal before starting to write an article. How this will help you? Like you have selected a journal. Now when you will read the other articles in that journal, you will get an idea about what kind of articles they publish, what kind of language that they use, what is the vocabulary that they use. All these things you will understand when you will browse the content of that article. Go through the papers that they have already published. In each article they have those dates mentioned. Then when was this article received, when it was reviewed, and when it finally came online. This will also give you an idea about how much time that specific journal takes in order to publish an article. The next thing, checking the quality of the website. See, here what happens, every website has a date when it started. If it is an online journal, right, so the date of that website will match the date or the year when that journal has started, if it is only an online journal. If it is only a print journal, then the dates may or may not match. Then what kind of tools or services they offer to the authors, because in some journals they offer some tools like to improve the English and all those things. You can check out for those. And only submit your research to one journal only. But some journals have this policy that if they reject your article, they might recommend your article to some other journal. Never submit your article to more than one journal at one single slot. Why? Because if you get an acceptance from both the journals, then you will be stuck, right? And lastly, follow the instructions for the authors. In the case of formatting, in the case of referencing, all those things that they say, you have to follow them. This is actually very, very important. Okay, so this is a continuation to what I was shooting in the afternoon, but because of electricity cut I had to stop it there, so now I'm continuing. So in the previous slide that we talked about the tips to select a journal. Now we are going to talk about the difference between SCI and Scopus. So what are these? These are actually abstract and citation databases. Like when you publish your article in a journal which is indexed by SCI or Scopus, so your abstract, the abstract of your article and the citations all that your article has got, all of them are included in this database, right? They have information about the journal articles, what they talk about, and what others are citing, that has that article been cited by others or not, right? So these both are abstract and citation databases which are maintained by some companies. Like SCI is maintained by Thomson Reuters and Scopus is maintained by Elsewhere, right? So Scopus is a large interdisciplinary database which is maintained by Elsewhere with specific strengths in science and technology, right? While the bibliometric and citation features use whole of the Scopus database. In the case of SCI, it is maintained by Thomson Reuters, as this SCI is also called as the Web of Science or also known as the Web of Knowledge. Now SCI, SCIE and ESCI. So SCI index, see, SCI stands for what? We have been talking about it so many times. SCI stands for Scientific Citation Indexing, right? This was initially produced by ISI, Institute for Scientific Information. Then ISI was acquired by Thomson Scientific and Healthcare in 1992 and named it Thomson Reuters Intellectual Property and Science Business, which then came to be known as Thomson ISI, which was later maintained by Clarivate Analytics to provide a comprehensive search citation of all of the indexing. So this is a basic background about SCI. Now SCI has two more kind of citation indexing called as SCIE and ESI. So SCIE stands for Science Citation Index Expanded, which is kind of a larger version of SCI, which covers more than 8,500 journals across 150 disciplines from 1900 to the present. So this SCI database was then expanded to form SCIE and covered more of the journals. Now SCIE and SCI is similar. The only two differences are what? Then that SCI has a non-zero impact factor, right? But SCIE journals are just ranked for the impact factor. Both SCI and SCIE are available online, but SCI might be available in a CD or DVD format, but SCIE is not. Now then the last one, ESCI. ESCI was launched by Thomson Reuters in 2015, which is new database, as it says, emerging science citation indexes. So this is right now, they do not have an impact factor as of now, but in future they can be indexed in SCI. So these are those journals which are close to meet the rules, or we can say the things that are mentioned in order to get indexed by SCI. So they might get indexed in SCI in future, but right now they are indexed in ESCI. So this index was produced by Clarivate Analytics since 2017, which includes over 3000 journals from various areas of research. Now each journal which is indexed in ESCI will be evaluated every year, and those qualified is first indexed into SCI. So the main aim of ESCI is to ensure that the important research works are visible in Web of Science core collection, even if it's not recognized internationally. So ESCI journals may have a chances to be included in SCIE if the journal continuously maintains its good quality of publications. Now peer review, most important thing, because you need to understand this. So peer review is what? It is the process of subjecting an author's research work to the scrutiny of experts. It also gives researchers the opportunity to improve the quality of their papers before publication. As the reviewers, they give feedback on how this work can be improved. They give recommendations also. So there are two types of peer reviews. First is the single blind peer review, and second is the double blind peer review. So in the case of single blind peer review, the names of the reviewers are kept anonymous for the authors, while all reviewers know the name of the authors and the background, but authors do not know anything about the reviewers. While in the case of double blind peer review, both the authors and reviewers don't know about each other. So the authors don't know who is going to review their article, and reviewers don't know who is the author of this article. So only the editor knows the identity of both the parties. So this is the difference between single blind and double blind peer review. So when you send your research paper to any journal, what are the two major things that any reviewer will look for in your research paper? First of all is clarity in the overall structure, simple language. Whole article should have a single theme. Don't just jump from one point to the another point while you are writing your article. One concept is to be discussed in one paragraph, and the citations should be proper and detailed, and the title should be impressive. So these are the things that they look in the overall structure of your article when they are observing it. Then proper information in the terms of what? In the terms of methods, literature review, and results and implications. See, methods, there is a very specific thing that is being said about methods. Like you write your article in such a way that if somebody else wants to reproduce the work that you have done, he or she should be able to do it. Literature review should not be more than 3 years. Like if you are writing an article in 2021, so don't take papers beyond 2018. Don't take papers of the year 2017, 16. Beyond 2018, don't take all those. Then results and implications should be very, very clear, that what you actually understood from what you have got. What is the output of your work? Now, importance of peer review. We all know what is peer review, but why it is important. First, for researchers, it enhances the quality of the work. Like if you have written an article and submitted it, so it gives you a kind of feedback about on how this work can be improved, how more things can be done. So it enhances the quality. Next thing, it assists the journal editor to take a decision on the manuscript. For students, as I said, for researchers, it helps them to improve their work. Like many times we might not know what is the shortcoming of the work, but the feedback from the peer review actually helps us to do that. So then it helps the researchers to improve their writing and presentation skills. Okay, you have got this output, you have got this table, you have got this graph, but how are you going to present the output that you have got? This peer review also helps you to do that. For community, see, every journal has its audience. Like I have subscribed to one journal, so I know that whatever articles will come on in that journal, they are related to my work and I can trust that journal, right? So it helps the community to decide on what scientific information that they can believe. Now this is a part of the practical session. If then we'll see how to tackle that. So there, as it was talked in the day one, there is some online journals just as where you have to paste your title, your abstract and your keywords, and then they will tell you some of the names of the possible journals where you can go. So Elsevier, Springer, Taylor, Francis and Wiley, they have their own journals suggestions that you can use in order to find an appropriate journal for yourself. So this brings us to the end of the day 2 of the session. I'm thankful to all of you who came into this thing and listened to me. I'm really thankful to all. Just take care and keep